Marcus Reed stepped into the cavernous departures hall of Denver International Airport just after dawn, rolling a burn-scarred leather carry-on behind him. The Rocky Mountains were little more than smudged silhouettes beyond the floor-to-ceiling glass, but the terminal already thrummed with summer holiday energy. Families in matching hoodies, corporate road warriors nursing triple espressos, honeymooners clutching passports like talismans. Marcus wore a faded baseball cap, low over watchful eyes, and a charcoal hoodie that half hid the muscular lines of his shoulders. To everyone who glanced his way, he looked like any other weary traveler, maybe a tech contractor on an early flight, certainly no one important. Which was exactly how he intended it. 4 days earlier, the Federal Aviation Administration had received an anonymous tip that SunWest Air, your friendly route to the sun, was cutting corners on crew rest rules and skimping on equipment inspections. Marcus, a senior compliance investigator with 12 years of reputation for rooting out rot in seemingly spotless companies, volunteered for the undercover assignment. Officially, he would be Mr. Marcus Reed, Atlanta-based marketing consultant, flying SunWest 512 nonstop to San Diego. Unofficially, he would be eyes and ears, noting every operational irregularity from passenger check-in to touchdown. He carried a slim gray notebook with a forgery of travel doodles on the cover and half a dozen microprint credential cards tucked inside his sock, ready, if things went sideways, to reveal who he really was. His flight left from gate C38. As he joined the snaking line to the counter, passengers traded the usual pre-boarding grumbles about upgrades and seat assignments. At the desk stood Lauren Whitaker, SunWest's gate supervisor. 27, impeccably groomed, platinum blonde bob framing a face that could pivot from syrupy smiles to stainless steel severity in a heartbeat. Her white blouse was starched crisp, her ID badge laminates catching the fluorescent glare. She scanned boarding passes with a speed that felt almost bored, until she glimpsed Marcus. Their eyes touched for one fraction of a second. Something flared, mild contempt? Suspicion? Before she masked it with corporate cheer. Next, she chirped, extending a manicured hand. Marcus passed over his passport and phone. Lauren's glossed lips pursed. "Mr. Reed," she said, drawing out each syllable. "Headed to sunny San Diego?" "Sure am," Marcus answered, neutral, his Georgia drawl smooth to polite vanilla. He watched her thumbs fly across the keyboard, saw a faint twitch in the vein at her temple. Without warning, she flipped the passport closed, inspected the cover, then snapped it open again like she expected contraband to tumble out. "Sir, did you know your booking code is missing the qubit checksum?" Marcus blinked. There was no such thing, but he let curiosity wrinkle his brow. "Checksum. It's policy," Lauren sang out, loud enough for the next cluster of passengers to hear. "We need a biometric cross-verification, especially for passports that have." She paused, eyes lingering on his photo. Dark skin, tight fade, square jaw, irregular laminates. More eyes swiveled toward Marcus. Whisper static fist. A teenage boy with ski goggles around his neck whispered, "Dude, what did he do?" Marcus felt the old, familiar prickle across the back of his neck. Years of walking into first-class lounges only to be asked, "Are you sure you're in the right place?" He inhaled through his nose, slow. "With respect," he said softly, "that passport was issued at the State Department facility in Atlanta. If there's a problem, let's solve it." Lauren's lashes fluttered, as if the calm in his voice irked her more than any protest. "I'm going to run a secondary UV check," she declared. She waved a subordinate over, Elijah, a lanky white kid barely out of community college, whose cheeks went pink the moment he saw Marcus's face. Lauren theatrically lifted a handheld ultraviolet lamp, swept it across the passport, then held the booklet up by its edge. The line stalled. A businessman huffed. A toddler wailed. "There," Lauren said, tapping an invisible flaw. "Ink migration on the serial line. That's normal after a couple of international trips," Marcus answered. "The microprint's intact." Lauren's nostrils flared. "Are you an expert on passport microprint, Mr. Reed?" "I read," he said, voice still steady. "And I travel." Something flashed behind her eyes, a decision snapping tight. "Sir, step aside." The phrase held centuries of baggage. Marcus felt a low hum of anger rise, but years in federal service had honed his patience to tungsten. He stepped to the side as instructed. Lauren reached for the drawer below the counter, pulled out a pair of scissors meant for removing frayed bag tags. Passengers gasped. Marcus's stomach dropped. In one swift motion, Lauren inserted the passport's navy spine between the blades and squeezed. The sound was a soft, sickening snip. The booklet split in two. Photo page dangling by a single thread. Someone shouted, "Whoa!" Phones lifted, camera lenses glittering like insects in sunlight. Every instinct told Marcus to intervene, to stop her before irreversible damage, but it was already done. Half his brain processed the logistical nightmare, a destroyed passport, probable overnight delays, reissuance red tape. The other half recorded everything: the irregular policy invocation, the hostile demeanor, the public humiliation. Evidence. He would need it all. Lauren dropped the severed pieces into a clear plastic bio bin, as if disposing of medical waste. "This document is compromised," she said. "Without valid travel ID, you cannot board. Security will escort you for further verification." Marcus folded his arms. "You destroyed my ID. That's an assault on federal property." She leaned close enough that he caught the sweetness of peppermint gum over the chemical tang of nail varnish. "File a complaint," she whispered. "See where it gets you." Then with theatrical brightness. "Next." The line hesitated, scandal coursing through it like current. A white woman in yoga pants murmured that was a lot. A gray-haired black couple glared daggers at Lauren. A TSA officer ambled over, confusion on his face. The situation teetered on the edge of full-blown scene. Marcus slipped his phone from his pocket and tapped record. The red LED winked alive. "For the record," he said aloud, "SunWest Supervisor Lauren Whitaker just destroyed U.S. passport number 6792 under no articulable cause." Lauren's smile froze. "Phone's down, sir. Recording in a secure area violates." "No, it doesn't," Marcus said. "Not in a publicly accessible gate." He turned slightly, so the phone's camera captured her badge, the bin holding his ruined booklet, the gathering crowd. "Tell me again why you severed federal ID." Passengers muttered their approval. Someone clapped. But before the confrontation could escalate, an overhead chime dinged, and a female voice, Captain Sophia Morales, spoke from behind the desk. "Lauren, what on earth is going on?" Morales wore pilot stripes and a look of weary authority. She took in Lauren's scissors, the gawping passengers, the plastic bin. "That better not be what I think it is." "Captain, this traveler's ID was fraudulent," Lauren insisted. "I exercised security discretion." "By destroying a passport?" Morales' voice was knives. "Step into the jetway. Now." Lauren stiffened, but obeyed. Marcus watched them disappear behind the door. Elijah lingered, looking nauseous. "Sir," he stammered. I'm so sorry." He retrieved the two halves of the passport, laid them gently on the counter like injured birds. "She shouldn't have. If you want to file a—" "I will," Marcus assured him. "And you'll be writing an incident report too, son. Keep your eyes open." Boarding paused. Another supervisor hustled to calm the line, offering drink vouchers, apologies. Marcus retreated to a molded plastic seat by the window. He felt strangely weightless, adrenaline making fingertips tingle. He pulled the gray notebook from his bag and began writing. Every timestamp, every phrase. The crushed velvet hush of the early terminal now crackled with gossip. SunWest's blue-orange logo flickered on screens overhead like a neon conscience. 15 minutes later, the jetway door banged open. Captain Morales marched out alone, fury tamped down to a simmer. She knelt beside Marcus's seat. "Mr. Reed, I can't imagine how you feel right now. We're trying to fix this. The supervisor you dealt with is being relieved of duty pending investigation. I will personally make sure you reach San Diego." Marcus nodded, noting her sincerity, the fine lines at her eyes. "Captain, appreciate that. But a broken passport won't get past the TSA at the transfer gate. We've called the Customs and Border Protection Liaison. They'll validate your identity manually." She hesitated. "Can I escort you?" "Gladly," he said, slipping notebook and phone into his bag. He followed her through a back corridor smelling of jet fuel and old coffee grounds, past crew restrooms and storage closets. As they walked, Morales spoke in a low voice. "Off the record, Lauren's been on a hair trigger lately. Rumors of layoffs, performance pressure. Still, what she did, unforgivable." Marcus made a small non-committal sound. Her empathy felt genuine, but he needed more than apologies. They reached a small meeting room where two CBP officers waited. One scanned a database, cross-matching Marcus's driver license and security questions. Within 10 minutes, they printed a temporary travel letter. Marcus thanked them and tucked it with the remains of his passport. He turned to Morales. "Captain, I think it's best I board now." "Of course," she said, but something unreadable passed across her face. Part relief, part caution. They returned to gate C38. Lauren was nowhere in sight. Boarding resumed, though murmurs still rippled. Marcus entered the 737, found seat 21A. As passengers loaded luggage overhead, he noticed Elijah slip down the aisle, cheeks still flushed. The young agent paused beside Marcus. He leaned in. I shouldn't say this, but there's something you should know. Lauren's not the only one. There's been weird orders from district management. High alert profiling, they call it. They target single male travelers on busy routes. She brags about bumping people for sport. Just thought you should have context. He darted away before Marcus could reply. Marcus exhaled. Profiling under the guise of security alerts. Potential systemic misconduct. His assignment had just widened. He pulled out his phone, scribbled a new heading. Possible discriminatory directives. Source, frontline employee Elijah. Need doc proof. The jet pushed back, engines whining into thunder. Safety demo flickered across ceiling screens. Captain Morales' voice came over the PA, controlled but strained. Good morning, folks. Welcome aboard SunWest 512 to San Diego. Flight time 2 hours, 12 minutes. Weather at destination clear. My crew and I are honored to serve you. Sit back and enjoy the ride. Marcus felt the plane surge down the runway, lift into cobalt sky. He let the seat back vibrate through his spine, tried to unclench. But an hour into the flight, turbulence hit. Violent drops that elicited shrieks. Oxygen masks didn't deploy, but overhead bins popped open. A drink cart lurched, soda cans clattering. Marcus's trained eye noticed the seatbelt sign failed to illuminate for 20 long seconds. An equipment glitch. He made a note. Faulty cockpit cabin signal. When the bumps subsided, a flight attendant announced that snacks would be complimentary in light of earlier unpleasantness at the gate. Mid-cabin, a white man in a suit stood up and demanded Wi-Fi refunds. Farther back, a teenager live-streamed, recounting passport dude's crazy drama. News traveled at Mach speed. Marcus's phone buzzed with an alert from a friend. You trending? Someone posted your vid on TikTok. He grimaced. Undercover status already compromised. He typed a terse text to his liaison. Incident escalated. Video public. Advise. 40 minutes from landing, the cockpit door opened. Captain Morales emerged, face pale. She crouched near Marcus again. Mr. Reed, she whispered. Maintenance log shows we had a pressure seal replaced on this aircraft yesterday. But readings look off. If we divert to Phoenix for caution, my management will scream. They've been pushing on-time metrics hard. I need an outside opinion. Marcus narrowed his eyes. She suspected he wasn't just a passenger. Why me? He asked softly. Her gaze darted to the torn passport protruding from his pocket. Because no normal traveler carries a notebook full of far citations. She straightened. Who are you? Please don't forget to like and subscribe. The moment had arrived earlier than he'd planned, but circumstances demanded clarity. He reached into his sock, slid out the steel-embossed credential. The gold eagle of the Department of Transportation gleamed beneath the overhead LEDs. Marcus Reed, Senior Investigator, FAA Office of Safety Assurance. On assignment, he handed her a business card. Keep this extremely quiet. Morales' shoulders sagged with relief. Good. I was hoping. She motioned him toward the galley, away from prying ears. Over humming refrigerators, she explained. SunWest grounded 3 planes last month for cabin pressure anomalies. Engineering blames sensor drift, but I've seen captains overridden when they tried to write up repeats. If we don't dig, passengers could die. Marcus processed. A corporate culture where gate supervisors felt empowered to shred passports, where management sidelined safety concerns. Dots connected. He whispered. After landing, you'll submit a full irregularity report. I'll serve a notice of investigation within 24 hours. Meanwhile, keep the plane safe. If you think diversion's necessary, do it. My authority backs you. Morales nodded, resolve crystallizing. She returned to cockpit. 10 minutes later, the PA chimed. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain. Out of an abundance of caution, we're diverting to Phoenix for a maintenance inspection. We apologize. Groans filled the cabin, but the decision held. Marcus watched clouds scroll below, felt the angle of descent flatten, the engine spool down. Safety first, finally. At Phoenix Sky Harbor, they taxied to a remote stand. Paramedics boarded for a medical call, an elderly woman with vertigo. Mechanics with fluorescent vests set up portable staircases and hurried under the fuselage carrying pressure sensors. As passengers disembarked into a shuttle, local media already massed behind barricades, tipped off by the viral video. Reporters shouted, Mr. Reed. Sir, is it true SunWest destroyed your passport? Flashes strobed. Marcus kept his head down. Inside the terminal, uniformed officers approached. TSA, Airport PD, and 2 stern men in navy jackets. FAA security who acknowledged Marcus with subtle nods. We've taken Supervisor Whitaker into custody for interfering with federal documents. one murmured. Word is SunWest upper management scrambling for statements. Marcus finally allowed himself a slow breath. Secure the torn passport halves as evidence chain. Interview gate staff Elijah and others. We'll need CCTV and logins showing unauthorized passenger profiling algorithm. The agents moved with crisp efficiency. 7 hours later, in a conference room overlooking Phoenix's glowing runways, SunWest's legal counsel sat opposite Marcus, face drawn. Captain Morales, still in uniform, watched silently. On the table lay copies of maintenance logs, emails instructing supervisors to flag unaccompanied male passengers of interest, and Lauren Whitaker's personnel file containing prior complaints buried by HR. The general counsel rubbed his temples. What's your initial ask, Investigator Reed? Marcus tapped the folder. Immediate grounding of all 737-700 series until independent inspection. Suspension of discriminatory profiling program. Mandatory retraining. Civil penalties, as applicable. And I'll need public acknowledgement of misconduct within 48 hours. The lawyer swallowed. That will bankrupt this airline. Then maybe you shouldn't have gambled with safety and civil rights, Marcus replied. My office will oversee compliance. Outside, night deepened. Captain Morales whispered, Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Marcus said. There's a lot of turbulence ahead. But inside, he felt a steady flame of vindication. Not just for himself, but for every traveler who had ever been told to step aside. 2 days later, headlines blazed. FAA launches full probe into SunWest Air after viral passport incident. Lauren Whitaker's mugshot circulated beside footage of her glowering as agents led her away. Elijah's testimony, once fearful, became catalyst. Passengers cheered the accountability. Airports across the country debated new oversight measures. And Marcus Reed, newly minted public figure despite years of working in shadows, sat in a quiet Atlanta coffee shop leafing through fresh pages of his battered notebook. He added a final entry. Justice, like lift, is invisible but undeniable, a force that rises the harder you push against it. He closed the book, sipped his coffee, and watched the sunrise paint the windows gold, already planning the next flight where nobody would see him coming until the moment they were forced to see what they'd become.